Good morning and welcome to the very first episode of what we hope to be a series of programs dedicated to discussing topics such as transportation, mobility, and connectivity with a wide variety of interesting guests, including elected officials, community leaders, users of the system, etc. So I'm very happy to say that my first guest on this program is the chair of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, or CITT. Also happens to be my boss as chairman. And I'd like everyone to welcome Oscar Braynon to the show. Oscar, welcome, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Betancourt or Javier. It's an honor to be your first guest, and I look forward to a long and fruitful run.
Absolutely. Now, you and I have had several conversations over the months or years at this point. So we're no strangers to each other, but of course, we want to let the public know what's happening with their half penny, what's happening with the People's Transportation Plan, and just give them updates on what's happening with transportation and mobility in their communities. So I know you're going to do a great job of that, representing District 1 and talking about what's happening in that district. But then also as chair of the CITT, you obviously have a more global perspective and can talk about issues affecting everyone in Miami-Dade County.
That's correct.
Before we get to that, though, I think it's helpful for people to know a little bit about you. You have a very interesting background, a storied career in public service. You come from a family of public service. And so why don't you share a little bit about yourself and your family and how you got to the CITT?
Well, thank you, sir. As you stated, I'm currently the chair, but I've been on the CITT now for going on 6 years. I was appointed initially by Commissioner Barbara Jordan, who was the commissioner for District 1. She was succeeded by Commissioner Oliver Gilbert, who's currently the vice chair of the county commission, and he reappointed me upon his election. So I've been chair for a little less than a year. I have also served in other public functions. I retired from the county in 2014. I worked at the airport. I also worked for the one of the previous chairs of the county commission, Commissioner Barbara Carey Shula, who was in District 3. I worked for her for 9 years, and I worked for Commissioner Audrey Edmondson for a year. I also worked in community relations between commission stints as well as the airport. I also have a career as a businessman where I owned an aircraft charter company. I previously worked at Eastern Airlines out of Miami International Airport as a pilot. I served in the U.S. Navy for not quite 20 years, but a long career that included 2 command tours. I flew over 3,000 hours in the U.S. Navy. I've served in Europe as well as the Pacific and Latin America as well as the Caribbean. So I've been recruiter as well for the Navy, right here in Miami. My family has been in South Florida for probably 140 years, even before Miami was a city. I did grow up in Fort Lauderdale. I went to high school in Hollywood. I attended Tuskegee University. And from there, I went into the Navy. So I've got many family members that have also done public service or been elected to office. My wife worked for the county for 30 years as well. My daughter even serves as a contractor for Miami-Dade County. So there's a lot of public service going on there. To transportation. My background being aviation, I went to the county and aviation at first, and then it went into actually transit as well as the seaport was my specialties when I worked for county commission. My interest in transit continued, especially because there was so much that the county needed. We got a great full service airport. We got a great full service seaport, but our point A to point B for land transportation is still not as good as our airport and our seaport.
Right. It's a work in progress.
Right? Absolutely. So I've kind of landed in transit because I saw the greatest need in transportation. At this point, we are still operating under the half penny 20 years after the institution of the half penny, or the election that the voters voted for the half penny to tax themselves to improve transportation in our community.
Yeah, just to read it, it'll be 20 years this November that
That's correct.
surtax was passed. And in that language for the referendum, they also approved the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust and the creation of the CITT to oversee those funds, right?
That's correct. That election did create the CITT, and the purpose of the CITT was to monitor, oversee the use of the half penny. There were specific projects that assisted in, improving the transportation network of our community. Roadways, transportation supported infrastructure, as well as a rapid transit plan, and the improvement of our bus as well as our Metro Mover service. The Metro Mover service actually became free. Prior to that time, there was a charge to use the Metro Mover. So for 20 years, we've had free Metro Mover. That is a cost that the county has to bear with the half penny. So that even though it's free, we're still paying for it.
It's fare free. It's paid in other ways, right?
Yes,
and
it sure is.
And let's not forget the same is also true of the Golden Passport. Could you explain that?
Yes, the Golden Passport was established initially to assist senior citizens to have free transit throughout Miami-Dade County, not just for bus, but for rail as well. The Golden Passport has expanded to include not only just senior citizens, but veterans as well. And I think there's one other group that I'm not familiar with that I think that was recently added for the Golden Passport. But I know veterans and seniors is a minimum. So that is also a cost that the half penny is bearing. The rapid transit use of the half penny has included the completion of the Orange Line from Miami International Airport to the Arlington Heights station, I believe it is. That was state and half penny money. I don't believe there was any federal money used for that.
No, sir.
As we move forward with our SMART plan, which is, I forgot what the acronym is.
Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit Plan.
Thank you. I'm glad you got that one. That includes a number of corridors. I believe it's 5 major corridors and probably about 4 secondary corridors as well. That would be bus rapid transit. The primary corridors include the South Corridor, which is currently under construction, the Beach Corridor, which is in planning, the North Corridor, which is in planning, and the Northeast Corridor that is also planning but progressing very rapidly at this point.
Just in, I think, 2 others, so Kendall and East-West Corridor as well.
Oh, that's correct. Kendall and East-West. Thank you for reminding me of those. The 3 I really want to talk about today are the Northeast, the North, and the Beach.
Okay.
Those, because I think they are at point, those are probably the next 3 to be completed. The Beach Corridor, the county put out I think a RFP, as well as a mini agreement for planning and development of the Beach Corridor. The beach represents the largest tourist attraction that we have in South Florida. The North Corridor represents the second largest tourist attraction that we have, and that's Hard Rock Stadium.
Right.
It's a stadium that has monthly concerts. It also has pro football, including the Super Bowl that comes every few years. We've got University of Miami football, plus college football championship that's coming in 2026. Right. We've got World Cup soccer that's coming to Hard Rock Stadium. So if you want to say Hard Rock is the second largest tourist attraction in South Florida. So I think that corridor is important for that, just as the Beach Corridor is important because we've got the ocean. And the ocean, hands down, is the number one tourist attraction for South Florida, all of South Florida. So we need to take care of those. and not just for tourists, but keep in mind when tourists come, we have to provide services, whether those are personal services, those are goods that people purchase. So locals have to be involved in as well. The locals are the people who have the jobs to service the tourist industry and the tourists that come to town. So our transportation system needs to support our largest industry, the people that visit us, and the people that work there as well. The Northeast corridor, the Northeast is probably the densest population that we have along this community because it's been here the longest. We started from the beach and started to move west.
And the Northeast corridor is planned to run approximately where? Along what major?
It runs parallel to US 1. That includes downtown, Wynwood, Lemon City, from Lemon City into, I believe it's probably Miami Shores, El Portal, on up to North Miami Beach, into Aventura.
So established neighborhoods
Yes.
with lots of density. Yeah.
Lots of density. And, US 1 is probably the busiest non-highway that we have here. So that should relieve traffic along US 1. Aventura has the largest retail complex in Miami-Dade County, Aventura Mall. So it would serve that as well and that community. And that community is rapidly growing. They have probably the highest density of any city, including Miami, because they are what do we call a vertical community.
Right.
So we have to serve that community as well with the Northeast corridor. So those three corridors, I think, are very important as we go along, and we need to follow what's going on, be aware of what's going on, and make sure that we can get support from the state and from the federal government, and that the local government supports it as well.
Okay, so you mentioned the North Corridor, and that falls largely within District 1, which, as you mentioned, is Commissioner Gilbert's district. And you're the representative
yes,
to District 1.
It's an important part of District 1.
Right.
I think it also includes a portion of District 2.
Right.
Prior to getting to District 1. And maybe even, I don't think it has District 3 at this point. They've completed that portion. But it's important for District 1 from an economic standpoint, because people can begin to get to downtown for work, and people from downtown can get out to Miami Gardens.
So tell us a little bit about District 1 for those who may not be familiar with it. What does it encompass? What are the major institutions there? What are the major opportunities? Some of the challenges?
District 1 includes the municipalities of Opa-locka as well as Miami Gardens. Opa-locka is an older, established community, probably 25,000 people. It's adjacent to the Opa-locka Airport, as well as actually adjacent to Miami Gardens. Miami Gardens is the third largest municipality in Dade County, behind the city of Miami and the city of Hialeah. Miami Gardens is larger than Miami Beach or North Miami Beach. And like I said, we've got Hard Rock Stadium. We also have 2 4-year accredited universities in St. Thomas University, as well as Florida Memorial University. We have a very large industrial area.
And the college, by the way.
Miami-Dade College.
Miami-Dade College North, I believe, right?
That's adjacent to Opa-locka. It's not in Miami Gardens, but it's part of, I guess you would say, that region within District 1. We also, like I said, have a large industrial area at Golden Glades. We've completed 1 industrial area and planning a second at the Calder Racecourse structure. They've recently completed a sale of the track itself, and that's going to be a commercial industrial development. And there's also development to the west, in the western portion of Miami Gardens as well, along County Line Road. So there's a lot of growth going on in Miami Gardens that will be bringing people to Miami Gardens to work.
And the North Corridor is obviously meant to connect that part of the county to the rest of the county, to the
Yes.
jobs, to educational institutions, and vice versa. So, as I understand it, it's supposed to run along 27th Avenue,
That's
where a
correct.
lot of these institutions can reside.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of opportunity for future growth there, right, and economic development. So would you say this is as much of an economic development project as it is a transportation project?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It will connect Miami Gardens with a direct throughway to the airport.
Oh.
There's quite a bit of older infrastructure that would benefit from the North Corridor in terms of commercial, industrial, and also residential. There will be a high propensity for people to live near there, so they can live there and go to work in downtown, work in at the airport area, and work in other communities. It will connect Miami Gardens with the rest of Miami-Dade County. And I think also it will serve Miami Lakes as well. Miami Lakes starts, I think, at 57th Avenue.
Mhm.
The rail is at 27th Avenue. So that's only a 3-mile difference.
Right.
There will be high incentive to live in Miami Lakes, drive to 27th Avenue, park and ride.
Or potentially take transit, right? So you mentioned that there are two cities in District 1,
Mhm.
Miami Gardens and Opelika. And one of the things that the surtax funds is a series of municipal transit services, i.e. trolleys, which we've all become accustomed to. So can you talk a little bit about the municipal trolleys in District 1 or overall, and how that's meant to complement and connect to these smart plan corridors?
Sure. The part of the half penny, 23%, of the half penny goes to 34 municipalities within Miami-Dade County. The 34 municipalities split the 23% proportionately to their population. This money goes to each of the municipalities to create a transportation infrastructure within their municipality. The trolleys include that. They are in most of the cities, the trolleys are free. I think 1 or 2 cities, there is a nominal fee for riding the trolley, but over 90% of them are free. So the citizens can get on their local trolley, ride within their municipality for free. The service has expanded to include what we call, I guess, door-to-door service,
Mhm.
freebies, where it's an on-demand, pick you up at your door, take you where you're going within your community.
Much like Uber or Lyft, but
Absolutely.
free and run
Free.
by the cities.
That's correct. There are, I don't know, maybe a dozen cities that are using
Mhm.
freebie right now, and they seem to be catching on. And the cities that don't have it or start to looking at how can we use freebie.
Right.
But the trolleys are the primary source of the transportation infrastructure within the municipalities. The city of Miami probably has 8 routes that run Little Haiti, Liberty City, Brickell, Little Havana, downtown, even to
Mhm.
the seaport. And they have a route that even runs to the airport and services the community in and around the airport. So the trolleys really provide a great local connectivity within the municipalities. And this is including connecting not just to the items or the commercial businesses within their community. It will connect to the rapid transit lines, to the corridors that run through the communities, allowing people to go for free to the rapid transit. So it's a great connectivity tool. It's the first mile. It's the first mile.
Yeah, so it's a system, right? And it's
Yes.
got multiple parts, and they all kind of have to work together.
Connectivity.
Connectivity. It's all about connectivity and getting people to their destinations, right?
Yes, it sure is.
Now, the North Corridor, let's stay on that topic because I think there's a lot of interest in that corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And it has an interesting and maybe controversial history. Can you talk about the history for a bit? I know you've been in the community for a long time.
Yes, this is going to be brief, okay? But the North Corridor was a concept in the initial Decades of Progress bond. And that occurred in 1978. And there was transit money in that bond, and North Corridor was part of that plan. We have taken incremental steps since 1978. And how long would that have been since 1978? That's 44 years.
I was born in 77, so yes.
Okay,
that's
44 years. We built the initial rail line, and that was completed in the early 80s. North Corridor was, we're going to do that next. The initial line for the North Corridor was turned toward the racetrack, which was at the time one of the largest tourist attractions in South Florida,
Mhm.
Hialeah Racetrack. It was probably the premier racetrack for South Florida at the time. It's a beautiful landscape, flamingos, top horses every spring and winter.
Top destination for quinces photos.
There you
We know that.
go. So that was done in the 80s when they made the initial line and said, we will do the North Corridor. Well, that promise was 40 years ago. And then it just kind of sat on the back burner without any heat on it. From the early 80s until the 90s, things began to stir up. Like when are we going to start building these things that we said we would build? And the planners looked at, well, we're going to need some more financing. The initial bond's just not going to cover that. We started with, let's do a penny. And I think in 2000 or 1999, a full penny failed. Right. The residents and citizens and voters said that was not what we wanted. We came back in 2001, and the plan included the North Corridor, the South Corridor, the Beach Corridor, and it's going to be part of the half penny. And everything passed, and then we began to look at the finances of it and what we thought the half penny would pay for in 2001. By the recession and administration changes, not only in the federal government, but in the local government, the half penny was not, at the time, could not be used to get the North Corridor. So we're having to look for alternative financing for all of our corridors that include federal, state, local, and what other funds we can find. The SMART plan sort of put everything together. It says, okay, let's begin to really do this. If we don't have the money, let's go get the money. And so there's been a determination to get these corridors done and find the money as we're planning them. And that's kind of where we are now. In the long term, we may have to look at additional sources of revenue from the citizens of South Florida. So I think it's been a 44-year run to get the North Corridor done.
It's overdue.
Long.
It's overdue.
Long
How
overdue.
confident are you that it's going to get done this time? Scale of 1 to 10.
8.
8? Okay.
Yeah. I'm confident that the will to get it done is greater now than it's been in 25 years.
Everyone's on board with it. It's
Yes.
just a matter of getting the money. Right?
Yes.
Okay. In the few minutes we have left, Oscar, let's talk a little bit about the CITT. So you are currently 1 year into your 2-year chairmanship. What do you hope to accomplish as chair? If you were to leave the chairmanship a year from now and look back at it, what do you want to be most proud of accomplishing? What do you want to leave behind as your legacy?
This may seem odd, but I want every seat, every community to be represented on the CITT.
Okay.
And where we have vacancies, I want to try to get those vacancies filled. I don't think we can fully do our mission unless every community is represented. And right now we have vacancies,
We have 4 vacancies. So
4 vacancies, and that's as many as I've seen since I've been on board. It is a demanding process. It is a demanding role that the individual has to play. There has to be a commitment, and that's getting harder to find.
but it pays well.
Yes, it does pay very well. I will admit, um, I am rich in service,
That's it.
and that's the payment. The payment is the service.
Right.
We all have to have something that we give to our community, and I think there are people out there who have great interest in transportation,
Mhm.
and we've got to reach out to those people and say, "Hey, here's a way for you to contribute." Um, in the next year, I hope to meet with all of the commissioners and emphasize that, particularly those that don't have members of the CITT, that we're able to fill those vacancies. Um, we've had a number of members leave recently who had many years of service. And that's taken a toll on the effectiveness of the CITT, the ability to have quorums. Um, I think the CITT does a great job of what its mission is, but we need to have everybody involved.
Be
I'm not.
truly representative of the
Yes.
community. Right.
We don't go out there and bill. We
Mhm.
don't go out there and make sure that the rail lines fit. We don't pour the concrete. We don't buy the trains,
We don't operate the train.
and we don't operate the trains. So, but our job is to see that all of these things are done properly by the agencies that are responsible for them. Go ahead.
So just so people understand, the membership of the CITT, it's 15 members, one appointed by each of the 13 county commissioners,
Absolutely.
one by the mayor,
Yes.
and one by the Miami-Dade League of Cities.
Correct.
If you want to be appointed by a commissioner, you have to reside in the district.
Yes.
Right.
You have to reside. That has to be your domicile.
Right.
There have been people who want to try some other solutions, but it hasn't
Right.
worked.
And that's about the only requirement,
Yes.
right? You don't have to be a transportation expert.
No.
You just have to have an interest in transportation and be willing to serve.
That's correct.
And so if people are interested in serving, how do they go about expressing their interest to us?
Well, I think one thing that they can do is they can reach out to the staff of the CITT to get the application, and the staff can direct them to how they can communicate with their commissioner regarding their interest in serving on the CITT. Or you can go directly to your county commissioner
Right.
and request that you be considered for a member of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust.
Yeah. And so as the staff of the CITT, I would encourage anyone who's interested to go to our website, which is www.miamidade.gov/CITT.
Absolutely.
Click on the membership tab, and that'll provide you all the information in the application you need. So, no, absolutely, that is one of our key priorities. We want to fill those 4 vacancies. We want to be fully representative of the entire makeup of the county, which
Absolutely.
is a very diverse county.
Yes.
So both geographic diversity, demographic diversity is important. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. And just so people understand what they'd be getting themselves into in the final few seconds, how often do we meet? What's the time commitment?
We meet once a month at the Stephen P. Clark Center. Meetings may last from 1 hour to 2 hours. So 1 to 2 hours a month is really what we're looking at. Now, you do have to prepare for those 2 hours or 1 hour, and that may mean doing some reading. We also, as a trust member, you have access to tours, briefings from other public officials, so you can get to better know our transportation system as well as our county government and other local governments. I've personally taken trolley rides as a member of the CITT in other municipalities where you get to go at construction sites to see what's happening. So you get a firsthand view. But the only requirement is to attend that once a month meeting. So that's the requirement. Everything else to me is a great benefit. And like I said, service is great pay. the service I give is great pay.
That's it. Well, thank you, Chairman Braynon. Really appreciate your time here today. And folks, if you want to join Mr. Braynon on the CITT, as always, please visit our website. Again, we have an application and information there. In the meantime, please tune in every couple of weeks, Thursdays at 10 a.m. This will be a hopefully long series of programs dedicated to talking about transportation and mobility, and we hope to see you then. Thank you.